The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
that one friend of yours that always has ideas but never really finishes them. That is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
So this episode, we're joined by a very special guest, we talked to Tim just recently, and you're gonna get to listen to our conversation. But like, he was so ready and just excited to talk. It was amazing.
Went right into it.
We didn't even get to do an intro. And in fact, like, he asked a question, and then the first thing you're going to hear is me answering the question. You don't even get him because we were off to the races. So like this conversation is super fun. So we're really excited to give it to you all. So as we go into the episode, he's just kind of asked us why we're really into Frankenstein. And you'll just kind of jump right into me responding to that question.
Fair enough. All right. Well, back to you, Eric and Anthony from the past.
Enjoy. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, we kind of talked about it a little bit here and there, trying to kind of, like, pin it down. But, yeah, ever since I was a kid, I've just kind of been fascinated by monsters. And especially the Frankenstein monster. I think just because, like, you know, he was sort of created and didn't ask to be created and then was, you know, treated poorly for just existing. And I think, you know, especially any kind of outcast kids or picked on kids can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, it seems like we just migrate towards it. Is that the case for you, Tim?
I always thought Frankenstein was really fascinating. What happened was I made a film called Room 237 with Rodney Asher. And so that was all about The Shining, right?
Right.
And then we went on this, it played really well. It was at a lot of festivals. So we went on the tour, and there was a lot of Q&As. And the one that people never talked about was that film as about a father and a son, you know, and which really resonated with me watching The Shining. And I was thinking, what other horror film is about that relationship? And of course, it's Frankenstein. So I went on this thing where I just probably watched 20. I had a spreadsheet. I probably watched 20 Frankenstein films, just kind of looking for some of that juju to kind of come in there.
We're right there with you.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
And I stumbled on Terror Frankenstein, which got kind of pushed in, you know, was put in my head, and then you know, there's a whole story about how this film happened, but that's sort of where all that came from. Did you guys run across Terror Frankenstein before my film?
So I backed your film on Kickstarter when it originally came out, and like I can't remember how I found out about it. Like, I think I just got an alert that like you might be interested in this, and I had never seen Terror Frankenstein before that. So then like I backed it, and I was like, well, I got to see the actual movie before this one comes out because I need to have the context. So it led me to the original, which was also really exciting. So that was a fun journey.
Oh, cool! That's a unique journey, I think.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So out of all the Frankenstein movies, what made Terror Frankenstein resonate the most with you?
Well, there's a couple things. One, you know, it's close to the book, right? It's close to the book in a way that I really like, which is the second, you know, the Frankenstein is obsessed with getting this done, right? To making this thing. But the second he does, he's just done with it. He's just like, what have I done? We need to destroy it, and he goes to the police or something and tries to say, we've got to get rid of this thing, and they don't believe him. And that is very much in the book. It's very, there's not a moment I think that Victor is like, oh, my son, or, oh, I've created this thing. Now I need to nurture it and learn from it. And, that seems like a lot of stuff you could learn from a day-old monster.
Right.
Right? So, so that really kind of stuck. And then, I just liked it. And Leon was in it, which I thought was really cool, And then, when I decided to make this commentary thing, I was thinking I want to do... Is it okay if I segue to the story of how the film came?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to do something Frankenstein, and I was really thinking, and I wanted to do this commentary, and I wanted to write it with my cousin Jay, who was really interested in this commentary idea. I think it was his idea beginning to just somehow to do a film that was mostly about the commentary. And we started talking about Frankenstein, and that seemed like a really perfect one, but we didn't think of a film really. And then all of a sudden, Rodney said, well, why don't you just get Tara and maybe you could get Leon to be in it. And I was like, holy shit, Rodney Asher, who I work with a lot, is a great director. 237, The Nightmare, Glitch in the Matrix, all kinds of great stuff.
Right.
And I was like, what a great idea. So I wrote the friggin' script. I never met Leon. And I sent it to him, and I'd had some connection with him because he was quoted in the New York Times as hating our film. And so, but then we kind of found out that he really, and later I talked to him, and he was like, I talked about that film for about an hour, and they took, 5 minutes of it, and turned it into this hit.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought, what the fuck? So I sent it to him, and I was like, this is going to be a really odd experience for you to read a script that's got your name on it, you're a character, of an experience that you actually had, you know what I mean, of making this film. Then I later found out it was a very important film for him. He met his wife on that film.
Oh, wow.
And his 2 children came out of that. So, it was an important moment. And it was also the moment where he said, after he had done Barry Lyndon, and then he went to do that, and that's where he said afterwards, he was like, I just want to be behind the camera. And so that's how he got back with Kubrick. Okay. So I sent it to him, and he was, I like the script. I'd like to meet you. And we met in like 2 minutes. We were like, okay, this is all good. We're the same people. We're good. And, so that's how that came about.
That's really cool. Did Leon have any feedback for the script? Well, maybe change this here, but I guess probably not. But
no.
Okay.
Though it was very funny, we did a read through with him and Clue and Zach, and there was a part where one of them is going on, and you guys watched the film more recently than I, when somebody's going on about, all the girls that were following Leon around, and he's this rock star, and he was kind of rolling his eyes, which was very sweet of him, to just go, whatever.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So was there a lot of rights issues? Did you have to clear this with a lot of different people to be able to do this? Well,
no, I had to track down who owned that film. Mm-hmm. And I found these guys who did, and then I paid them for a screening fee is how that worked.
Okay.
If I wanted to do a mass kind of selling of the, try and get it on Amazon or whatever, I'd have to, I'd have to make a bigger deal, and I haven't done that,
Okay.
So that's why it's not more widely available.
Exactly.
Okay. Gotcha.
So kind of in that same vein, we noticed that there were a lot of names that were the same and a lot of names that were slightly changed. So what happened with that? Like, was it just...
Oh, give me some examples.
So there was Jacinta Martin, but her name she was changed to Sophie Martin.
Oh.
And then Bergwall? Anthony, the guy,
the actor who played Waldheim,
right?
You changed his name, and then even like Isabella, sort of like the actress who played Elizabeth. I can't remember her real name, but you changed that. But then we thought that Nicholas Clay, who would be the villain of the piece, he actually kept his real name, which I thought would have been the main one you would have had to change.
Right.
I know, that's really funny. I really think it came down to, those names are hard to pronounce, or that's there's too many that start with a G or an I or whatever. You know what I mean? That it's going to get confusing. Yeah. But we were never going to change Nick's name because we really, God rest him, rest his soul. But we watched that movie, Jay and I, my cousin. We were like, that fucker. Like, we just disliked him so much that we were like, okay, he's got to be the villain. He's, I don't know what it was, but we just like, he's the villain.
That's great.
I love it.
So you've never had any actual interactions with Nicholas Clay, the actual actor, then?
No, he's dead. It's funny, in the movie, as you know, we kill a lot of people on the set.
Right.
And it's very odd that there was some stuff like that I didn't know about. Like Parr, who plays the Frankenstein, he died in a house fire with his wife.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. And then at the premiere, during the Q&A, Leon revealed to the audience and me that the guy who plays, I think, the mayor in the scene we were just talking about, where he goes and tries to get them to kill the monster or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a very small part, but apparently years later he killed himself by lighting himself on fire, pouring gasoline all over himself and killing himself. So that was really ghoulish. And I was wondering, because you guys are probably the first people who've watched it since Clue and Leon have died, was that a little ghoulish, knowing that now these two guys were dead as well?
I don't know. I mean, I think it did. I feel like they were both, they come across pretty well. And, I feel like the David character is the one who really, looks bad at the end. But no, I thought, it was kind of nice seeing them in sort of like a different role. Like, yeah, it was kind of nice seeing them together, honestly.
Yeah. I liked both of them. They were really sweet guys. And incredible amount
So did you know Clue before this, or did you get him, reach out to him specifically for this?
Well, Clue, this is some real Hollywood stuff. I met Clue at my daughter's preschool graduation. His grandson was in her class, and his name is Clue as well. And I started talking to Clue a bit, and he was just he's just a really open and neat guy, or was. And then a year later or so, when I was trying to think about this, I was like, what if after I got Leon, I was really high on it. I was like, I should just get anybody I want. Who could it be? Who would be someone like just a dream? And I was like, Clue Gulliver, because I love him. I love him in so many things.
Oh, yeah.
And then he'd do it. So I was like, right, we are on fire. So yeah, and it was a similar thing. I gave him the script. He liked it, and then we went and did it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Especially like to get them for such a strange project. Like, it's cool that they were just like on board right away.
Right.
Yeah, it was. And I think Clue was, he was very open about this, I can tell you. That, he was an older man, and he was having trouble memorizing lines, which drove him nuts, because he used to be just like, he'd read it and he knew it. So the idea that he could have the script in front of him, take multiple takes, work on a schedule that we had made very comfortable, I think that was also part of it,
So how quickly did, I mean, I guess if you had multiple takes and stuff, this wasn't recorded
Over
in
one
an
day,
hour and a
yeah.
half straight through, but how long did it take to get this all put together?
It was 2 days, and the first was Zach and Clue. Second day morning was Zach and Clue, and then Leon was going to come in and do it. And then it was just kind of like the echo of the film we're making.
Right.
That Clue was lost. He got lost, and we were getting these texts like he's in Burbank, he's in this, he was lost, you know.
Okay.
And we were like, holy shit, we got to get him here. We got to finish this up. So
Right.
then he showed up and just boom, he just rocked it. He just, we did. I don't know if he did more than one take of most of everything. He was fantastic.
So that's kind of an instance of life imitating art.
It totally was. It totally was.
Which kind of feels like the theme of the project in general is about the way that art affects life and that life affects art and that, the audience, how art impacts the audience and vice versa. So it's kind of cool that it happened in real life too.
I agree, because the commentary transforms the original film to a different narrative. Yeah. And in moments too, right? So it makes sense that Leon would do something like this that kind of got us into that same place.
So when you wrote this script, I mean, were you trying to time out scenes so that the audio would hit specific moments in the film and everything, or did some of that just kind of happy accident as you went through it?
A little of both, but we were mostly trying to hit stuff, and we did a terrible job. We were not thinking. I've done another one of these since, and I've learned, but we're not thinking that. We were just read, because what we would do is we'd write it, and then we'd watch the scene, and one would take the one character, and one would take the other, and we'd do it. Okay. But not being actors, we were reading it kind of as fast as we could. Whereas actors take time and they want to hit certain things, and they should, right? Yeah. So that's why the first day was we do it, and then someone was watching, because these guys did not want to watch the film while we did it. So we had someone watching, so we'd do it, and then I'd look over, and I was Rodney, and he would say, it's 4 minutes over, and you missed this spot that you wanted by, a minute and a half or whatever. Right. So then it was cut, give them the new stuff, and then go from there.
Speaking of the audience, we noticed that there was a lot of people who have contempt for the audience. Is that kind of your background with the Hollywood types, or that they just dislike their own audience?
Are you talking about the characters of the director and writer?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I guess so. I could definitely tap into that. Okay. But I guess I could just tap into the idea of getting stuck in a situation like that where it was not your intention for this to be a circus, and suddenly you're the main attraction.
We noticed that the writer himself, he was appalled when he noticed that he was a member of an audience. At the execution. Yeah.
That's right. He got to that place. Yes, he was. That's really good. Yeah, I like that. I think that's very true. I think that was a theme running through it.
Okay.
Yeah, it felt like, for you as the creator of this, being an audience member to the original film, and then being the artist creating this new work that would then go on to have its own audience, it felt like the theme there was kind of layered through multiple layers of fiction and multiple layers of reality in a kind of really fascinating way.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know. Some people have wished that the layers had been, of different priority. Some people were like, oh, I wish it had been more funnier, or I wish it had been this, But it's what it is. It's a mix of things, and we liked the balance, when we made it.
Yeah. I think it hit just right.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there is elements of humor, but I think it's a very dark humor, and I think it definitely serves what the original film was, and builds on it. So yeah, I wouldn't have wanted it to be Mystery Science Theater or something having an actual narrative, a story, a drama is what makes it so unique.
Well, thank you. That was our intention, to have a narrative and write the shit out of it, not have it feel improvised.
Right. That's really cool. So let's talk about Igor's or Fritz's, however you want.
All right.
So, like we Anthony and I, when we were discussing it, we were kind of like, well, is it Gavin who is the Frankenstein and the David being the Igor, or which way do you see it?
Igor, how would you define Igor in general? I mean, from the whole text of Frankenstein and the monsters, other movies. So
we really would define it as a Fritz, because Igor didn't come in until later, of course.
Yeah, true.
But kind of one of our reads is that for the method, method, it was like David was torturing the monster, aka Pear, and he was kind of how Fritz was in the original 1930s movie. The original
where
Frankenstein.
He was so cruel to him.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that was that in your intention, or is that just kind of maybe a happy accident that kind of rings through it, or?
That's interesting. Because Terror and Frankenstein obviously discarded the whole character.
Right.
But when we were doing it, we were obviously aware of, there's the balance. There's the original piece, but then there's what it is. And it's hard to argue with what is what. What is more important. You know what I mean? It's got almost equal weight. So there is a Fritz, there is an Igor, there definitely is, and we were just not doing it.
Okay.
And I think you're right, and I think both of your thoughts are right. I think it points in the thing we were thinking about, just the cruelty of that, and then it works with the father and son thing where he's lashing out at someone who's helpless, basically.
Right.
But it's a really good question. I'm sorry I don't have the best answer.
That's a good answer for me, yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting, like, I feel like primarily you work in nonfiction. Like, you mostly, like you were saying, Room 237, The Nightmare, you've done a lot of, like, documentary type stuff. And then this film kind of, like, pretends to be nonfiction, but, is fiction. So do you prefer working in nonfiction?
Let me see. What? I think this is it. I was a screenwriter before I started producing and directing, and I was very fortunate to work for 15 years and make good money, but not much got made. And I think there was a certain aversion after that to creating stuff from piecemeal, from me having an idea and then creating an entire world out of it in this script, and then having that script disappear and then not, so somehow I think I've been drawn to documentaries and then these films because there are real life pieces, or there are pieces that you can take and then sort of work with or against. You know what I mean? In a documentary, we get someone who says some stuff about a theory about The Shining or about an experience they've had or whatever in another film, and you put that together, and you're creating your own narrative. And I'm really in a narrative, but it's different from that other thing, and maybe it's because I'm a little gun shy. I kind of like that, and so these films are like a real, they really push my pleasure place when I'm doing it, because it's sort of a synthesis of both those things. It's there, it has a running time, it's got a thing. I can't change that because that's the rules I've made, but I can do anything else to change this reality in the way that I like, and at the end of the day it's done and I can show it to people, and so I think that answers your question.
Yeah, that does. I hadn't thought about that like primarily with a documentary you're taking an existing interview and then writing after the fact, which is very similar to what you did in this case.
Right. Totally. structurally,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that case, my next question would be,
Sure.
are you going to either A, follow up more in this world? I mean, obviously we can't have Gavin, we can't have David, but can we have maybe, I don't know, some of the press releases or something like that? Do you have any interest in working in this world again?
The exact world of Terror of Frankenstein?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very rich. It would be so fun, I'm kind of, there's like this part of me that's hoping that at some point I'm going to get, I know that this film is in flux somehow. Terror of Frankenstein, the original. I just stumbled upon, there's some new international organization out of Sweden that's restoring and saving lost films. And they're starting with films that were shot in Sweden. And Terror of Frankenstein is going to be one of them. And my hope is they're going to do like a 4K or something and try and put it out on a Blu-ray or something. And then I'd love to have my thing tag along,
Right.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, and I've reached out through some friends who are at different, like Kino, it's Criterion and Arrow, those kind of people who deal with this kind of world. To sort of, I'm glad we're talking about this because it'll remind me to look into this again. But I'm hoping at some point that will happen. And then, my idea would then be, okay, now I want a small budget to create extra content, which would be exactly what you're talking about. I mean, it would be photos of the crime scene. It would be drawings of the court sequence. It would be newspaper, whatever we could come up with, and maybe there'd be a mystery in there as well,
Right.
Yeah, because when there's a point somewhere in there where they're talking about that there were a bunch of different websites that existed tracking the movements of the suitcase throughout the film, and I was just like, man, I wish that those websites actually existed. Those would be so fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun. We should do that for sure. That would be fun. Someone scrolling through it,
Right.
This content.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, I really like that feature at the beginning of the film, how like you get to kind of watch someone,
Go through the menu.
moving around and, going through the slideshow and then choosing to watch the commentary track.
Thanks. Yeah, the guy, my friend Sid, he did that. He's so funny with that reappearing thing of Leon turning to the camera with
Right.
that. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I made another one of these called Sex Madness Reveal. Have you guys seen that?
I've not
No.
seen that.
Oh, okay. So you can get that one on Amazon Prime because it was public domain. So you can stream it out.
Oh, okay.
It's an hour long, and it's a similar thing. It's the film itself is called Sex Madness, which is is like a reefer madness. It was made around the same time.
Okay.
It's low budget films. These guys would make something sort of a docudrama, right? And so, but it was mostly so you could show people doing drugs or being lewd. Right? And then there's this really not much of a story, but it was just like, it looked like they came up with something every day or something. And there is a true life mystery as to who directed it because it's just nobody fucking cared. You know what I mean? So this one stars Patton Oswalt as a radio podcast host who has a show where his fans come on and he shows a movie. Everyone syncs it up, right? And then he talks over it, and sometimes he'll have a guest and he'll talk about the film and so forth.
Right.
So then the other guy is Rob Zabrecki, who's this great actor out here. And so the bit is that Patton gets this guy on the show, and he doesn't know anything about him except that he's the grandson of the director, and he's going to tell us all the secrets behind the making of. And we find out there's, like Terror of Frankenstein, there's this insanely big story underneath the making of this terrible film, which involves secret societies, Walt Disney, LAPD Vice, all this crazy shit. And so that one, it's a little funnier because it's supposed to be like they're improvising, like on the thing. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny because the Patton character is trying to keep it light, and the grandson is, I'm here for a purpose. You know, he just wants to fucking tell the truth of what happened. So that was creating another world. If you guys watch that, I'll come back on. I'm proud of it. It's a good film.
Yeah, that sounds fascinating. I'll definitely be checking that out.
Right.
I'd love to do one more. I just want to do one more at least. I'd love to do a Western.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That'd be fun. It's such a fun world to live in. And I think you nailed it. It's creating a world, you know?
Absolutely.
And I like, because I feel like the reality is probably most films do have a lot of crazy stories in the background that we'll never know. Probably not quite this crazy,
right.
but like, I think it sort of builds on the mystery of just filmmaking in general, or like art, making art in general, that like there's all these worlds that we'll never experience. We just have what's on the screen or on the canvas or whatever, and it kind of opens up, it lets you look at that with like a wider frame of vision, that like there's so much more there that you aren't seeing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. That's exactly, for me, is really exciting.
And I guess again that kind of goes back to like what you did with like Room 237, is that there's the idea that there's this movie that we've all seen, but then there's all these people who think there may be more to it, and whether they're right or not, it's still interesting to just look at that film through these other people's lenses.
Agreed. And I don't know if we've succeeded as well as, with 237, I remember doing the research for that, and it would be like, say, the guy who does the Apollo moon landing, who believes that Kubrick shot the Apollo moon landing, and that The Shining is giving clues to the audience that that's what happened. And I'd be reading this shit, and I'd be like, oh, he's really good, we got to use him. But I'd be like, I don't buy any of this. And then there'd be something where, I can't remember how he set it up, but it was something about, somehow he got Gemini into this thing. Oh, that was it. That was the predecessor to the Apollo, was the Gemini program, right?
Okay.
So who was the previous caretaker? Was the guy with the twins. And the Gemini is twins.
Right.
And there was this moment where, oh, fuck, like, what if it's true, man? My whole world is going to have to change, I don't know if I'm ready for this,
That's amazing.
And so I don't think I ever hit that as strongly in these films. But I think there are moments where you're like, fuck, that could have been the director looking right at the camera. Or, you know what I mean? Or that guy does look terrified that, or whatever, like it feels suddenly very real.
Yeah, as you're watching it, like you get engrossed in the story, and you do just start to believe like that's really what happened. And because of the way you pieced it together, it's like, oh, there's the suitcase again, and suddenly now I'm watching for a suitcase that, actually has probably nothing in it, but now I'm focused in on it, that like it's part of this, this secret narrative.
Yeah, it's part of your ethos.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm so glad.
It's really good. So another question, kind of.
Yeah, please.
So, what is Terror Frankenstein your favorite Frankenstein, or do you have one that's closer to your heart?
Yeah, I like the film, but it's a snooze. it's pretty fucking boring, and I think Leon's trying really hard, and God bless Parr for trying to do it. It's really not much to his makeup or anything, I got it. I'm kind of classic. I kind of go with the first two, the James Whale stuff. Mm-hmm. I have a thing for Son of Frankenstein. I just kind of like it. I just feel comfortable watching it. Maybe it's because it really does hit. Like, you watch any Frankenstein movie, you're going to be like, wow, this is not the entirety of what I thought a Frankenstein movie was before I watched a Frankenstein movie.
Right.
You know, things are missing. You know, like in this one, there's no Igor, there's no Igor. You know what I mean? There's no Fritz. But Son of Frankenstein, I feel like it's like, oh, it's all here, man. You know, it's all, you know, maybe it's missing some stuff, but mostly I'm like, okay. Not that it's the truest to Mary Shelley, but that it kind of satisfies what our pop culture has kind of determined this genre is, you know. And then that said, breaking it, I do like the first Hammer with Christopher Lee. I think that's just going out a completely different way.
Right.
And then there's one of those where towards the end where Frankenstein is just himself has just become a monster. You know what I'm talking about? He raped somebody in the film.
Oh yeah, we remember that one.
Frankenstein was being destroyed.
Yes. That is just so
that one is brutal.
Fucking weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what made them go there. It's like...
The Hammer ones are so wild because, like, you have Peter Cushing through all of them, so it feels like it should have, like, a really...
Through line.
Continuous arc that goes all the way through, but he's so vastly different from movie to movie.
Yes.
It's just wild.
Yeah, in some cases he's action Dr. Frankenstein, where he's riding on a carriage at fast speeds, or he is a monster like you mentioned, or he's just more clever than everyone else in the room, like Moriarty or something.
What's the one where I guess he had died in the previous one, and then he's back, and he has to get a certain something another to keep alive or something? You know what I'm talking about? Is that... Like he dies in the previous film, and then he comes back. We see him like, I'm barely alive. You've got to.
Oh, is that the one where the previous one where he's burned alive?
Yeah,
and his hands are all burned.
Yeah.
That's
the one.
From Hell.
That's it. Oh, and he says,
because he has to have the other guy help him do the surgeries because he can't anymore because he's in like gloves the whole movie.
That was wild, but it doesn't follow to the next one where he's he's fine. He's just a monster. Yeah.
And then there's the one where he's like really kind-hearted. I think it's they like take in that like deaf mute girl, and he's like really taking care of her and stuff.
Oh,
That's the one with the hypnotist who is the villain in that one. There's like the evil hypnotist.
Oh,
and Frankenstein's like the good guy. Right. It's wild.
That's just great because that's where it's like, okay, we're doing Hansel and Gretel, but it's all about the villain isn't a witch, that she's there, but she's kind of a friend, and there's this other thing, and it's just like, wow, okay, that's a funny way to take that story, and where do you go,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forgot.
I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying with like Son of Frankenstein. Like I think the reason that there are so many Frankenstein movies and they've been around for so long and so many is that that people can kind of play with those pieces. It's almost like a Lego set where you can be like, well, I want the Igor, but I don't want the Elizabeth, or I want to move this around and make, like Kenneth Branagh's is supposed to be really close to the novel, but then like they revive Elizabeth at the end as a monster, and that's totally new. Yeah. It's just like, well, we can move this here, and it's a whole new story, but it's familiar in a way. And I just, that's, we've been doing our show now for a year, and we've watched like, 50-something Frankenstein movies, and everyone, they're all different, but they're all the same in a way, and it never gets boring.
Somehow
Did you watch Island of Frankenstein with John Carradine?
Not yet. That's on our list. Our list is like 200 or 300 movies long, so we're gonna be doing this for a while.
There's a lot of Frankenstein out there.
Wow, I don't think I think I bow before you. I think I tapped out at 25 or something. That's amazing.
Well, we also have
go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say we also have things that are just Frankenstein adjacent, like
we watched Animator
or Weird Science,
Sure. Oh,
right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. That helps. That helps break up the monotony.
Yeah. Oh, just Island's interesting because it's just not. So it's really nothing to do with Frankenstein. I think it's closer to Island of Dr. Moreau, really.
Okay.
But it's one of these, it really feels like, okay, we have some footage of a bunch of guys on the beach. Okay, so we'll use that, and then we can get Carradine for 2 days, so they'll just sit by a fire and talk about shit or something. I can't remember it that well, but it really feels like it was built around the availability of certain things, and it was not built around building a story.
Right.
Sometimes those are kind of like happy accidents where like sometimes they just don't work at all, but every now and then you get one where it's like the sum of this is greater than all the weird parts that they kind of threw together.
Yeah, what are you thinking of? I'm agreeing.
What is that movie that's it's like one of the last Boris Karloff movies. The name of it just left me, but it's the one where he's like he basically plays himself. He's like an aging actor, but then there's like a school shooter.
Yes, right.
What is that called? It's like
Targets.
Is it? What is? Is it just called Seconds?
I think or Targets.
Targets. Yes,
yeah.
that's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a weird one.
And it feels. I think that there was stuff like that where they was like, well, we got Karloff for 2 days, and then I have some leftover footage from this old film that we can throw. I think it's The Terror, right? They use some of the
right.
Corman Terror movie.
That's right.
And then they also just filmed the school shooter stuff separately, and somehow that really works.
Wow, I gotta watch that again. I'm sorry to keep bugging, but I haven't talked to anybody about some of these films. The BBC thing, you ever see that one? With
is it the one from the 70s or
with Michael Sarandon or something plays the monster. He's very pretty. It's a very pretty monster.
Yes, I think we have seen that one. Is that
the Frankenstein the true story?
It could be. It's long. It might be 4 hours or something. It might be that.
Yes. Yeah. And it's got what's his name?
James Mason.
James Mason. Yes. Yeah, we just watched that like a month or so ago, and it's wild. Like it goes all over the place. There's a lot of weird stuff in that's so outside the book. But
it even has Jane Seymour. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked at the center of it. There was that bit when he first gets the kid. He's really beautiful, and learning stuff is really interesting to him. He's reading, and he takes him to parties. And he can drink tea, and everybody's like, wow, And then he starts to decay, and Frankenstein just can't even look at it. He just cuts him off.
Right.
And that, to me, since I started this quest about fatherhood, that was really satisfying. Of people that have a child, because I have a kid. And I had a kid who was pretty young at that time, and it was, oh, look at her, she can do this. Oh, she is wearing this, that. But I can imagine, I had that ugly idea of like as she got older and she's just a person and fuck her, kind of. I don't think I will ever go there, but I could see,
right?
If you're making a horror movie, that's pretty freaking scary,
Yeah. And there's something, you were talking about, like, a lot of cases where, like, Victor, as soon as the creature wakes up, he's just like, oh, I'm done with this. But there's something so much more tragic about them, like, having this beautiful relationship where they connect and they're close. And it almost reads like a romance. Like, they are very close to one another. And
Absolutely.
then, like you said, suddenly things
off.
Change, and then Victor is just kind of done with him.
Yeah. Have you seen the Danny Boyle, both of his Frankensteins?
The play?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we have not done it for the show, but it's really cool to see the comparison with like the actors flipping roles and stuff.
Yeah, I loved that.
Yeah.
I really loved it.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool idea. And I was, because I had heard stuff about it and it was like, I'm never going to get to see this. And then I think it was during COVID, they were like, we're going to put this on YouTube actually. Right. And I was like, all right, yeah, I got to see this.
That's right. Yeah, I went out. It was like Christmas Day. I was at a family party, and I was like, "Sorry, I went to the New Art and I watched it back to back." It was great.
There you go. That's awesome.
But let's get back.
Did you see it live, or was it filmed?
It was filmed, but it was in a theater at least.
Okay.
Yeah. But let's get back to Terror Frankenstein. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No. You guys are my people. So.
Yeah, we'll talk about Frankenstein to anybody who will listen.
Oh man, I love it.
Yeah.
So I know you worked with Rodney a lot, but so this was you directed. He was just he kind of produced this.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he is on Sex Madness as well.
Right.
So is this the only thing you've done like through Kickstarter? I'm kind of curious, like what led you to that for this project?
I think it is. Well, we did a very small thing for Room 237.
Yeah.
And it's small because Lee Unkridge, who is one of the top Pixar guys for a long time ago, he's just a maniac for Shining. He's really very smart guy and very into it. So he somehow got a hold of the Kickstarter and he said, I'll just pay the whole thing. He just wanted to see it made.
Wow.
We'd gotten into Sundance and we needed just a couple grand to finish up. And he just said, here you go. So
Ponied up.
thank you, Lee.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we've hung out with him at the premiere, all this stuff. Awesome guy who knows the Shining. He's been working on it forever, but he's got this Shining book coming that's going to be just amazing. It's going to be exhaustive.
Okay. Yeah.
But other than that, we just did Frankenstein. And the reason was I had already made it, and I was at Sundance for, I believe, Nightmare. And I was going to other parties and things, trying to talk about what I was working on. And I talked to a guy George Schultz, who's just a great guy, and he at the time was working at Kickstarter, and he was like, oh, we could do a great thing with this because you already got it, you've got this idea with this whole world, so we can kind of tease that, and I was like, let's do it, because then I could pay for these fees to screen it and to to get everything together, and so that's how that happened.
Okay. Yeah, I actually found the emails and went back to the page, it's it's still there.
Wow.
And we were talking about the movie last night, and Eric was like, man, it's a shame that the shirts don't exist. And I was like, I think that there were shirts from the Kickstarter. And I went there and I was like, they did make shirts. And I'm so mad at myself that I didn't back at the level to get those shirts, because those things are great.
Okay, give me your sizes and I'll send them. Well, later after this, text me your sizes. I've got some, and I'd be happy to.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, they're pretty cool, I gotta say.
Yeah.
I saw there were 5 or 6 different designs, and they were all so cool. You all did. I mean, that's again to the world building. You went that extra mile and did all this cool stuff to really flesh out your story.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
It was a weird thing because when we were actually at festivals, I didn't want to give shit away, but I didn't want to try and walk around pretending. I didn't want it to be a performance art piece with me somehow oh, I'm Meryl's assistant, he couldn't be here or something like that.
Right.
I just didn't want to do it. It might have been really fun, but I just didn't feel it. And but yeah, we did though we did have all the arsenal to do that, with these shirts and so forth,
Yeah. Just the idea of what is it? Oh, here's your bag.
Yes.
I believe that,
yeah. That's a catchphrase, right?
Yeah. It was so dark whenever the reveal happened. It's oh no. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see some people want you have those movies that especially now with found footage stuff. There's a lot of people who try to make their fictional stuff appear to be real. I mean, even something like Fargo, has the "this is a true story" thing.
Yeah.
I could see where that would, especially with this being so close to reality, that it might be a little too edgy to try to play up that this was actually reality, especially when you've got Leon Vitale, got actors from the real film in there. You could really cause a stir with people think that this is some secret thing that actually did happen.
Right.
Yeah. I was hoping that even if you went in thinking, okay, these guys don't come right out and say this is fake, but I assume that's what it is, right? And you're watching it, and then Leon actually shows up. I thought that might be what the fuck, like the Gemini moment of fuck, is this real?
Yeah.
Yeah, I literally thought we were never going to hear from Leon at all, that it was just going to end, and then all of a sudden he pops in, it's oh, and that's when everything starts ramping up.
Yeah. He is just
Yeah, you finally get all the reveals.
he is just Mr. Reveal, right?
Oh yeah.
It works, but because it's almost like a waiting for Godot thing, where it's just like, is he actually going to show up? And then there's like that level of tension of like, is he going to get there? And then the level of tension of like, so we, as the sort of breadcrumbs are let out, like, okay, we know something we know some murders happened, but who did it? And it's kind of nice that it all kind of converges at once. And it's like Leon shows up. We find out not only who the murderer was, but that, David knew, and there's just so many things that kind of come together so perfectly at the end.
Yep.
I know you were saying like that you're really into narrative, and it's clear from this the way that you were able to ratchet that up.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Speaking of that ending, what inspired that? I mean, obviously we go back to the Bible verse, 1 John, 1:21. So is that actually something from your life that inspired that, or is it just something you thought was kind of cool and you wanted to add it in?
Well, I wanted to get it in. I felt like it would be a cool thing. When I had the idea, I thought this would be good to set up for something else. I didn't know when it would come back.
Right.
But also, I grew up with the son of a pastor. So it's the kind of thing runs in my family. And they all left the church pretty early. But I'd already sort of been going. Anyway, so I have that shit. So I do, it's similar to the Gemini thing. It is, I will hit a Bible thing first where I'll just feel a certain feeling of, just engagement that I wasn't expecting, because I don't walk around thinking of myself as a Christian or, you know what I mean? But I'll hit something like that and it'll have this kind of like jarring moment for me of like, wow, that's, I'm just really engaged with this, with this thing. And I think that was why, because I think that fit with what we were doing, you know?
Yeah. And of course it was obviously in the film as well. So
yes.
Okay.
And I mean, when it comes, like religious imagery is just so wrapped up in Frankenstein already anyway, when you've got creators and,
creations,
the way that creations deal with, their creator or whatever. So, and I think, biblical stuff just adds so much weight to things, whether, like you said, whether you see yourself as a Christian or not, like there's just an extra sort of like depth to religious imagery in things. And it's, like being able to pull that from earlier in the film and have it be that callback at the end it's really powerful.
It was.
Well, I'm glad, actually let me say this, because I think I have played the importance of Jay, my co-writer, my cousin, because he brought a lot of the story, a lot of great shit to this, and it was really a fun collaboration. But his father is also a pastor. You see, both our fathers are pastors. They're brothers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, my dad left the church when I was only about 7, kind of did his own thing. But his father, he had a church and he was da-da-da. And so it is something that the two of us have always shared, especially when we're talking about fathers and fatherhood and stuff. So I was not surprised that was going to that kind of ended up being part of this, if you get my drift.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, clearly you all collaborate well together, whether it's, your shared history or what. But I mean, it worked well. Yeah,
he's brilliant. He's a author. He's written some great books and a bunch of great articles at Harper's and all kinds of great shit. So it's very good. Yeah.
I'll have to follow that.
Hey, I got about 5 more minutes. Well, let's. What would we like to talk about?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I know you got that hard out here in a little bit. Is there anything? I mean, I know you mentioned Sex Madness Revealed.
What's your next project?
Yeah, you have anything else you want to promote or tell people where they can find you online?
Okay, Sex Madness Revealed is on Amazon Prime. I think it's one of those like $1.99 or something. There's also a film they made called the El Duce Tapes, which is about El Duce, who was the lead singer of the band The Mentors.
Right.
I don't know if
that film is so good.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
thank you.
Really, really good.
And that was a very personal, because it was me and my buddy Ryan were shooting all that footage when we were like 22 in Hollywood, and hanging out with El Duce, and then the footage disappeared with my buddy.
Oh.
He kind of went off somewhere. So 25 years later, I find him, and we did it. We made this thing. So it's really special to me, obviously, to
That's amazing.
complete something that it's just been kind of hanging over my head. Like, God damn, that was such good footage and so interesting. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, so that's also streaming. I think on all the streamings, and then it has amazing Blu-ray on Amazon that has like 4 hours of extra stuff. It's really cool. But my newest project, I just finished a short that is about a 30-year rift in a family brought about by an episode of Miami Vice.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
And it gets real. And so anyway, that's done, and that'll be hitting festivals soon. And then Rodney and I are working on something that I think I'll be able to. We'll watch the Twitter. I should be able to announce pretty soon. A pretty cool TV project.
Oh,
so that would be really, really neat if it does happen. So there's those things, and Glitch in the Matrix is streaming on Hulu. That's pretty awesome. That's the latest thing I did with Rodney, which is great. About if you're living, it's people that believe they live in that we live in a computer simulated world. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, there's a couple other things. I'm doing another thing. I'm going to do that Western at some point. And,
yes, you got to let us know.
Yeah. But I'm serious. I know you'd have to go off brand, but if you do Sex Madness, give me a call, and I will definitely come back and talk to you guys about it.
Yeah, we'd love that.
It was a blast. It's really fun.
So if people want to keep up with you on Twitter to hear about those new things, you're at Tim2 Kirk, right?
Tim2 Kirk, yeah, at Tim2 Kirk. And if people are looking for a copy of Terror Frankenstein, I don't know where you get it, but send me an email, and I might be able to find it. Might be able to find it.
There you go.
Oh, and do get in touch with me. I'll get you those shirts.
All right.
That'd be amazing. Yeah.
So what's next for you guys? What's the next film you guys are doing?
So our next episode is going to be our 1 year anniversary. So we're going to do the Thomas Edison short, the oldest existing Frankenstein film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing. There's an endless book on that if you ever want to read it. It's like 300 pages.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I will have to track that down.
And it's written by a fan. Like an obsessed fan. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that sounds right up my alley.
And where would I watch the older episodes?
So we're streaming on like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, stuff like that. You can also find us on YouTube. We just have like the audio files on YouTube, but
maybe one day we'll step up our game and do the video as well.
But yeah, it's just the Frankencast. You can find us pretty much anywhere you listen or where podcasts are.
Yeah.
So
excellent. I gotta see. I want to see what other stuff we both watched, because it was really fun to talk to you guys about this shit.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, we've had a great time.
There's a few people in this world who've seen as many films about Frankenstein as you and I, so it's very exciting.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on. I know you're about.
I gotta go, sadly. So
we appreciate you taking the time. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
Cool, and let me know when this is up, and I'll promote it on
thank you. Yeah.
Yep, I'll send you a message when it comes out.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you reaching out to me. It was really great chatting.
Yeah, we're thankful too that Anthony did that.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, my friends.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.